You begin your journey not with a destination, but with a letting go. The kind of journey Khidr took you on was not marked by signs or maps. It was a walk into the unknown, guided not by what the eyes saw, but by what the heart trusted. You walk in darkness, yet it feels familiar, like the womb of trust, where the heart beats not with fear, but with remembrance. The dunya shouts for plans, goals, explanations, but you, dear soul, are learning to move without them. And those who strive for us, we will surely guide them to our ways. Quran Surah number 29, verse 69. This is one of his ways, the way of unknowing. Khidr's story begins not with his own voice, but with the pursuit of a Prophet Musa alayhi salam, noble and chosen, seeking someone whose knowledge was beyond his own. Even the most guided seek guidance. Even the most enlightened sit before wisdom. And so the path begins with humility. What is humility if not surrendering to what you do not yet understand? You will meet moments in your life that appear confusing, maybe even cruel. The soul cries, why? But the whisper of the path says, keep walking. Because some questions are not meant to be answered. They are meant to shape you, like water carving rock, gentle, slow, persistent. So too does Allah carve the soul through seasons of uncertainty. You may think you are walking a crooked road, but perhaps it only appears that way from where you stand. From above, it is a straight line to Him. Khidr, the one clothed in green, in life, in renewal, did not explain before he acted. He did not comfort before the discomfort came. He simply moved as he was taught by Allah, with insight that pierced beyond the surface. Your journey too will be full of such moments. A loss that makes no sense. A door that closes without warning. A love that fades too soon. But what if, like the boat, the boy, and the wall, there is mercy buried inside each? To walk the pathless road is to be content not knowing the full story yet. To rest in the knowledge that Allah sees beyond time and you only see a moment. Perhaps you dislike something while it is good for you. Quran Surah number 2, verse 216. Breathe. Let your soul sit beside this verse for a while. Let it wash over your plans, your griefs, your unanswered prayers. You are not lost. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are simply on the pathless road, the very road Khidr walked. And on this road, answers don't lead. Allah's mercy does. So soften your heart. Let the questions remain. Let the journey stretch on. You were never meant to understand everything. You were only meant to trust the one who does, because perhaps the destination was never a place. It was the transformation of your heart along the way. The ocean stretches endlessly before you, breathing slowly like a sleeping giant. Waves come and go, soft, then strong, then soft again. The sea does not chase, it does not rush, it simply holds, like Khidr. This chapter of your journey does not begin with motion, but with stillness. The stillness of waiting, the stillness of not knowing. Musa alayhi salam stands at the meeting of the two seas, not just a physical place, but a place written in the unseen. He has come searching, not for land, but for meaning, and here Allah places him in a moment of divine convergence. Two seas, two worlds, two types of knowledge. One revealed, one concealed. At the junction of the two seas, they forgot their fish. Quran Surah number 18, verse 61. Isn't it strange how something so small, so seemingly unimportant, became the sign? A fish, forgotten, lost, slipping into the water, was the moment everything began. The journey of knowledge did not start with a grand revelation or thunderous voice. It began with a loss. Your life is filled with similar signs, little things that vanish quietly. Certainties you used to hold, people you thought would stay, dreams you once believed in. They disappear, and at first you feel abandoned. But what if those vanishings are not empty? What if they're entrances? Sometimes Allah removes a thing to unveil a truth. Like the fish that slipped into the unseen waters, your understanding too must dive into places the eyes cannot follow. You see, the seas do not just carry water, they carry depth. The meeting point is where logic drowns and faith begins. Musa's journey was not delayed when he lost the fish. It was activated. So too, your journey may not begin until your plans fall apart. And he is with you wherever you are. Quran Surah number 57, verse 4. Even here, in your moment of uncertainty, he is near. The sea knows this. The waves never panic. They simply return over and over, trusting the rhythm he gave them. Let your heart do the same. Let it return. Let it rise and fall without fear. Let it float in the trust that Allah never loses sight of you, even when you lose sight of yourself. Musa alayhi salam and his servant retraced their steps, not out of confusion, but because sometimes what you seek requires returning. Returning to your intention, returning to your Rab. Sometimes the place you left holds the sign you need. Sometimes the place of your perceived failure is where your real lesson begins. There is a reason Allah chose the sea, not a mountain, not a tree, not a desert, for this sacred encounter. Because the sea reminds you of something your heart forgets. There is so much you do not see. And yet, everything beneath the surface moves with divine precision. The waves do not need your understanding. They need your surrender. So tonight, as you lay in stillness, let the sea within you settle. Let the rush of seeking be calmed by the knowledge that the one who guided Musa to Khidr is the same one guiding you, silently, wisely, lovingly. Verily, with hardship comes ease. Quran Surah number 94, verse 6. Ease may not come through answers. It may come through trust, through letting go of the need to explain everything, through standing quietly at the edge of your sea and waiting for what only Allah can show. Because the sea that sees you too. He does not speak first. He does not introduce himself with lineage, titles, or stories of glory. He simply is present, steady, calm. Like a tree in the wind, he bends with Khidr but does not break. This is Khidr, the man of green. You do not know him through his name. You know him through his actions. Strange, unsettling, deeply rooted in a truth unseen. He wears no crown, no robe, yet the knowledge he carries bends even prophets toward him in humility. He walks with Allah's permission, and that alone is enough. Then they found one of our servants unto whom we had given mercy from us and had taught him knowledge from our presence. Quran Surah number 18, verse 65. This is not ordinary knowledge. This is not taught in books, nor captured in the logic of the mind. It is a knowing that flows from nearness to the divine, the kind that sees not just what happens, but why. He appears in the middle of the journey, not at the beginning, because you must travel far enough, lose enough certainty, and empty enough of yourself to even recognize the kind of presence Khidr brings. You wonder, why is he so calm while the world shifts? But that's the thing about those close to Allah. They are not ruled by the surface of things. They've seen too deeply. They know that storms are sometimes sent to guide ships to shore. Khidr acts. He doesn't pause to explain. He tears the boat. He ends a life. He rebuilds a wall. And with each act, your soul shudders. This isn't how goodness should look. This isn't how mercy feels. But maybe that's the lesson. Mercy doesn't always feel soft. Guidance doesn't always arrive gently. You have been taught to expect goodness in pleasant packaging. Smiles, ease, happy endings. But Khidr teaches a different language. One not built on how things feel, but on how they serve the divine plan. You see a tear. He sees a tyrant coming. You see a death. He sees a soul protected from a path of ruin. You see a wall in a place of cruelty. He sees a treasure meant to outlive that cruelty. And you could not bear with me. Quran Surah number 18, verse 72. Khidr does not criticize Musa alayhi salam for asking. He simply reminds him, this path requires a different kind of patience. Not the patience of waiting in line or bearing pain, but the patience of surrendering to the unknown with love. You want to follow Khidr, but can you walk without needing to understand? Can you obey without demanding clarity? Can you love Allah enough to accept that sometimes His goodness will look like loss? To walk with Khidr is to unlearn your eyes. It is to trade judgment for wonder. Anger for trust, fear for acceptance. There is a deep beauty in his silence. He speaks only when asked, and even then only when it's time. He does not need to be known, because he is known by the one who matters. And so you learn something quietly profound. You do not need to be understood by the world to be right with Allah. You do not need applause for your silent sacrifices. You do not need recognition to carry out the truth. Just presence, just mercy, just knowledge from him. Tonight, as your soul rests, let the green of Khidr's presence settle over your thoughts. Let it remind you that Allah's knowledge is always deeper than your worry, that not everything needs to be explained. Some things are just to be trusted. Indeed, he is subtle with his servants. Quran Surah number 42, verse 19. Khidr's story is not here to teach you how to act. It's here to teach you how to perceive and to know that even the strangest parts of your life may be cloaked in a mercy only Allah can see. The day begins calmly. The sun glints gently across the water. The boat sways quietly, and nothing seems amiss. You are safe. You are floating. You don't see the storm ahead, and that's the mercy of not knowing. Musa alayhi salam is watching, questioning, still aching to understand this strange companion beside him. Then Khidr moves, not with warning, not with explanation, but with decisiveness. He reaches down and begins to tear the boat open. A boat, a gift, a means of provision and safety, torn by the very man you're following for guidance. So he made a hole in it. Musa said, "Have you torn it open to drown its people? You have certainly done a grave thing." Quran Surah number 18, verse 71. You felt this moment in your own life. The job you needed? Gone. The person you loved? Distant. The door you were sure would open? Slammed shut. You stood in shock. Why would Allah let this happen? Why destroy the very thing that was helping me stay afloat? But not all harm is harm. Sometimes the break is the barrier between you and something much worse. The crack in your boat may be the mercy that shields you from the tyrant on shore. We only know what is near, but Allah knows what is next. You may be crying over the pieces, not realizing what was just avoided. You may mourn what you lost, never learning how much heavier the loss could have been. You may feel ruined, and yet, from the divine perspective, you were rescued. This is where Khidr's teachings begin, with discomfort, with confusion, with rupture, because sometimes your soul has to feel like it's drowning before it learns how to truly swim toward Allah. But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you. Quran Surah number 2, verse 216. You're not being punished, you're being protected. And that's a hard truth to embrace when the boat is breaking under your feet. But pause, reflect. Would you rather sail in comfort straight into the hands of a tyrant, or bear the heartbreak of loss and be spared what your eyes could not see? Khidr tore the boat not to harm, but to hide it, to make it unappealing to the one who steals, to shield what belonged to the weak from the greedy hands of power. You too may have something beautiful in your life suddenly turn sour. Not because it lost its value, but because Allah wanted to keep it yours. The break is not always the end. It is the beginning of protection. Tonight, as your heart rests from the wounds you carry, let this thought soften you. What was taken from you may be the reason you are still safe. What was torn may be what saved you from being completely wrecked. And remember, your Rab sees the tyrants you do not. He knows what waits behind your next turn, and he tears only what would have drowned you. He is the best of protectors, and he is the most merciful of those who show mercy. Quran Surah number 12, verse 64. So when life breaks open, when the waters leak in, when all you can do is weep at what's been damaged, look again. Maybe it's not destruction, maybe it's divine redirection. The village was quiet, a simple place. No loud corruption, no thrones of injustice. Just people living their days, raising their children, harvesting their hopes. And in this place, Khidr and Musa alayhi salam come across a boy. A child, not a tyrant, not a monster, not a threat you would recognize with your eyes. A child full of potential. Yet Khidr ends his life. The breath leaves the boy's chest, and the silence that follows is heavier than the sea. So they set out until when they met a boy, he killed him. Quran Surah number 18, verse 74. Musa alayhi salam is shaken. You would be too. You are. Because how can this be mercy? The journey breaks the part of you that thought you understood Allah's plan. It confronts the idea that everything sacred is meant to stay. That if it feels good, it must be right. That if it's innocent, it must be protected. But Khidr is not following your feelings. He is moving by permission, by divine instruction. And this act, this unbearable act, is an act of mercy. You've mourned things like this, not just people, but possibilities. You've watched something pure disappear, a dream, a child, a part of yourself that you never thought could be taken. And the ache is deeper because it felt so undeserved. You don't mourn what you hate, you mourn what you loved. And when that love is taken, the soul is left whispering, why? But what if the thing you weep for was sent to be taken? What if its purpose was not in its staying, but in its leaving? Khidr explains softly, and as for the boy, his parents were believers, and we feared he would overburden them with rebellion and disbelief. Quran Surah number 18, verse 80. So Allah ended one life, to preserve two hearts, to protect a family that was beloved to him, to save them from a future they couldn't foresee. What you call tragedy may be the rewriting of your entire destiny, not as punishment, but as protection. You've begged Allah before, Ya Rab, protect me from harm I cannot see. And sometimes the answer to that dua is a kind of grief that leaves you breathless. Because we imagine protection as a shield, but sometimes it is a removal, a quiet subtraction to prevent a future collapse. Can you trust the author, even in his edits? Can you let him cut scenes from your life that you thought were perfect? Because he knows what they would have become? Allah knows, and you do not know. Quran Surah number 2, verse 216. It's easy to accept this when the change feels gentle, but what about when it feels like a blade? What about when it's a child? What about when it's a love that never returned? Your heart breaks, but your heart is not left empty, because Allah never takes without the intention to replace. And what he replaces is always purer, softer, and more lasting than what was removed. So we intended that their Lord should substitute for them one better than him in purity and nearer to mercy. Quran Surah number 18, verse 81. Let that verse hold you. Let it sit inside your grief like a gentle hand. You have lost, yes, but you have not been forsaken. Tonight, think of the things you've mourned, the people who left, the prayers that never came to life, the chapters that ended too early. Whisper them to your Lord. Place them at his feet. And then remember, the child they mourned was taken before he could become a burden, and what they were given in return was something only Allah could design. You will not always understand what leaves you, but you can trust that nothing leaves unless it was written to do so. And what returns in its place will not be random. It will be mercy. He walked into a town that did not welcome him. No food offered, no greeting exchanged, no courtesy shown, and yet he stopped to serve. In the middle of that unkind, ungrateful town stood a wall, half collapsed and ready to fall. A forgotten ruin, crooked and tired, like the morality of those who walk past it daily. Musa alayhi salam was watching. Again, confused. Again. We're starving, he must have thought. We have been walking. These people turned us away. Why are we helping them? But Khidr didn't ask the town's permission. He didn't ask for thanks. He just began rebuilding. Stone by stone, his hands steadied what others ignored. Musa's voice cracked through the silence. If you wanted, you could have taken payment for it. And who wouldn't think that? Who wouldn't expect fairness? But fairness isn't always the language of divine wisdom. Khidr turns to him, not with irritation, but finality. This was the last of the three lessons. And the wall, like the boat and the boy before, was not what it seemed. As for the wall, it belonged to two orphan boys in the city. Beneath it was a treasure for them, and their father had been righteous. So your Lord intended that they reach maturity and extract their treasure, as a mercy from your Lord. He wasn't building for them. He was building for him. How often do you leave when you are not seen? How quickly do you withhold your effort when it's not appreciated? We are a people fueled by response. We equate applause with value. We build only where there is praise. We love only when it is reciprocated. But divine wisdom doesn't always work on immediate returns. Khidr built a wall no one noticed, for children not even present, in a place that rejected him. Because Allah knew what was hidden, because not every reward is for this moment. Beneath that broken wall was a treasure, guarded by no one but time and trust. Buried years ago, possibly by a dying father with trembling hands in a whispered prayer, Ya Allah, preserve this for my children. That one prayer echoed through time. It became bricks, mortar, shelter, mercy. Those children didn't see the wall rise. They didn't know what they'd lost. They didn't see the visitors pass through. They didn't thank Khidr or Musa. But they would one day reach that age, and that wall would still be standing. You think no one saw. You think no one cares. You think your efforts in that thankless job, in that stubborn family, in that heavy situation, vanished into air. But perhaps your work is like that wall, built now, rewarded later. Maybe not for you, maybe for your children, maybe for someone you'll never meet. And maybe that is the point. Allah did not say the treasure was because the children were good. He said, and their father was righteous. One man's righteousness became the cause of divine protection for his children, even in his absence. Not wealth, not fame, not contacts or followers, righteousness. That's what left an inheritance. Sometimes mercy walks in quietly, builds walls no one asked for, leaves before you even notice. That's what this chapter is about. Khidr came and went. The town never knew. But the orphans would one day stand beneath that wall, safe, protected, unaware of the storm that almost stole their treasure. Mercy is sometimes invisible in the moment, but it is never absent, even if they don't thank you, even if they don't understand, even if it's not your city, even if you'll never see the result. Build it for the one who sees the unseen, for the one who records quiet acts, for the orphans who are not ready yet, for the mercy that will unfold, not today, but exactly on time. The journey was never meant to be easy. It was meant to transform. Musa alayhi salam was not an ordinary man. He was Kalimullah, the one who spoke directly with Allah. And yet even he, with all his rank, with all his closeness, stumbled on the path of patience. Waiting, because what Khidr did shook the soul. It undid what seemed right. It clashed with the logic of the heart. It wounded. But that's where the real lessons begin, when your understanding is tested and your soul stretches beyond comfort. Khidr warned him, didn't he? You will not be able to have patience with me. And Musa alayhi salam sincerely, faithfully replied, you will find me patient if Allah wills. But as the boat was torn apart, the child killed, the wall rebuilt. Each time, Musa's response came from a deeply human place. He reacted not because he lacked faith, but because he felt. And that is key. Too often, we think patience means being unmoved. We imagine sabr as a face with no tears, a mouth with no questions. But Musa alayhi salam asked, and still he was beloved. You too will ask why before you say Alhamdulillah. You will gasp when the boat breaks. You will scream when the child dies. You will wonder when the wall is rebuilt in a town that gave nothing back. And in those moments, your questions do not make you faithless. They make you real. True patience is not passive. It's a seeking patience, one that stays even while trembling. It's the kind that says, I don't understand, but I'm not letting go. There is something powerful in Musa's alayhi salam struggle. He didn't hide his confusion. He didn't pretend to be okay. He asked, he objected, he felt, but he stayed. He didn't leave Khidr. He didn't turn away from the mystery. He kept walking, step after step, into a journey he did not fully grasp. That's presence. Because presence with Allah is not always felt in peace. Sometimes it's found in the storm. It's in the moment you're broken, but still whisper, Ya Allah. It's when the dua chokes in your throat, but you say it anyway. It's when you can't see a way out, but you get up for Fajr. That's presence. That's a heart that stays even when the mind is screaming. The story of Musa and Khidr isn't just about hidden wisdom. It's about the cost of knowing. Real knowledge, the kind that transforms, is never cheap. It comes after confusion, after discomfort, after being stretched beyond what you thought you could bear. Musa alayhi salam was a prophet. He had spoken to the Lord of the worlds. But in this story, he was a student. And like every student of the soul, he had to learn this truth. Sometimes Allah doesn't explain things immediately. Sometimes the lesson is not in the answer, but in the waiting. Patience is not about passivity. It's about trust wrapped in seeking. And presence is not about perfection. It's about being real with your Lord. You will walk your own path with Khidr-like moments. Moments when something you build is torn, when something you love is taken, when you're asked to give without thanks. And you will ask, why? But if you stay present, if you stay patient, even while trembling, you will see it. The meaning, the mercy, the wisdom. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually you will say, Alhamdulillah for what broke me, because it built me. This is not a call to suppress your feelings. This is a reminder that even the most beloved of Allah struggled to understand His plan. You are allowed to wrestle with the story. Just don't walk off the page. Sometimes the real miracle is not in understanding, but in remaining. To stay present with Allah when the world offers you every reason to turn away, that is the kind of patience that becomes a gateway to nearness. Musa alayhi salam may have parted ways with Khidr, but not with the lesson. He left the journey, but not the transformation. So the next time you cry at something you don't understand, remember the prophets cried too, and they were still chosen, still loved. So are you. He did not leave Musa alayhi salam with bitterness, only boundaries. This is the parting between me and you, Khidr said. Not in anger, but in mercy, because sometimes parting is not a punishment. It is the closing of a door to let another one open, one you would never walk toward if you kept holding someone else's hand. Musa alayhi salam had walked into the unknown, seeking knowledge he knew he did not have. But in his thirst, he was met with something deeper. That some knowledge is not given, but withheld. That some wisdom cannot be understood while it's still unfolding. You too may beg for answers. You may sit at the shore of your life and say, Ya Rab, explain to me why this happened. Why did I lose what I loved? Why was I broken just as I was healing? And maybe, like Khidr, the answer is not given in the moment, but after, when the pain has passed and the seeds have grown. Khidr's three actions, the tearing, the killing, the rebuilding, were not to confuse Musa, but to free him. Free him from the assumption that wisdom always looks like gentleness, that mercy always looks like mending, that good must always be visible. In reality, the divine works behind veils, not to hide, but to teach trust. Not every curtain is meant to be drawn back. Some are meant to be stood before in awe, not walked through. That's what parting with Khidr teaches us, that Allah does not owe you clarity, but He grants it when it will elevate you, not just inform you. Musa alayhi salam did not fail. He simply reached his human limit. And that is not shameful, it is beautiful. The Quran tells this story not to shame a prophet, but to comfort a seeker. To say, even the best of you struggled to stay quiet before divine strangeness. Even the most faithful asked why. Even the strongest minds needed patience. This is for you, for the times when your faith wrestled with your questions, when you watched the boat of your plans sink, or the child of your hopes taken, or the wall of your efforts rebuilt without recognition. When your heart wanted to say Alhamdulillah, but your lips trembled instead. You are not broken. You are human. And sometimes the holiest thing you can do is stay in the silence, in the questions, in the longing, and let Allah speak in ways the world cannot. Khidr didn't say goodbye with drama. He didn't leave with fireworks or sermons. He simply revealed what was hidden, and then left Musa alayhi salam with something deeper than answers, trust. The kind of trust that walks away without all the knowledge, but with certainty that Allah is just. The kind that looks at the storm and still says, He is Rahman. The kind that bows not when it understands, but even when it doesn't. This parting wasn't cold, it was full of warmth, because it let Musa alayhi salam return to his people, not with secrets, but with softness. It taught him and us that the journey is not always about arriving. Sometimes it is about surrendering. You may never meet a man like Khidr, but his lesson walks beside you daily. Every unanswered dua, every delayed relief, every act of mercy that came disguised as hardship, every time you say, I don't know, but still prostrate, these are all partings that aren't cold, because Allah remains. And isn't that what matters? Not that every chapter is closed with a neat explanation, but that you are left closer to the author. The story ends, but the knowing begins again. In you. Because guidance is not a place, it's not even a person. It is a posture, a humility to learn, an openness to change, and a trust that what is hidden is still held. Held by the one who sees what you cannot. So let the unanswered questions rest. Let the parting stay soft. And trust that what is meant for you will never need to be explained for it to work. Allah is enough, even especially when you don't know why.